All right, so in this video, I'd like to share my thoughts on the Latin American phone number system and how it varies, obviously, depending on the country you're in, which is useful for Geoguessr and definitely for Battle Royale, because like beside the normal or more like widely known useful clues for distinguishing countries in Latin America, um, there's something about cities or any kind of town or settlement with phone numbers because in Latin America they have phone numbers everywhere is something that I found like not only for companies and stores like private businesses but they also have phone numbers like painted anywhere really like on a lot of walls or houses just with graffiti or industrial paint like you'll find a lot of phone numbers everywhere in South America and they do differ a lot so in some cases it can help you like figure out immediately where you are which is especially useful for Battle Royale um, where you have to like identify the country as fast as possible, of course. Using area codes, I'm sure you can also figure out like specifically which part of a country you're in, but that goes kind of beyond the scope of the video anyway. Um, so I'm just gonna try to demonstrate like how my thought process goes when I see a phone number in South America and like different countries, like how the system works more or less. In a lot of cases, you'll have phone numbers that are just about like 7 or 8 digits long that don't really have anything else to it, which can make it difficult. But sometimes you have some kind of area code prefix, mobile prefixes, trunk codes, etc., that can help you to distinguish exactly where you are and can kind of get you out of tough situations. In this one, for example, I see a 6 digit phone number in a place that I think would be Bolivia just by looking at it, but it's actually Cusco. So that one, for example, just saved me because I would totally have guessed something else. So in that one, I would have had like the first guess correct pretty much immediately. Um, so I think here we'll start out with Colombia, which is pretty much like one of my favorite like phone meta countries of Latin America because their system is like really easily recognizable. For some of the local numbers, you'll have just a 7 digit number that's pretty much random which doesn't help you at all because that happens in a lot of countries. But one thing you can tell in the beginning of the phone number here, you have a 3 digit area code prefix, and the 3 digit area code prefixes in Colombia always start with three, and it's usually between like 300, like 300 and 320. It can go up to 350 though. Um, so watch out for that. But it's like really easy to recognize immediately. It's something like yeah, like 312, 317, followed by 7 digits. Like in that case, you can pretty much immediately guess Colombia, like no matter what. Um, I have had it happen where I would get it confused with Mexico because they have also like 10 digit phone numbers with area codes. And if the area code happens to be 300 and something, then yeah, like that can be complicated. But there's not like a really big chance of it. And whenever you see like a lot of different codes like this with like 300 and something, you can be like pretty sure it's gonna be Colombia. Um, for other like varying like length of phone numbers, like you can also mention Brazil, which is something that I haven't really included. Um, because Brazil, like you can also distinguish that just from the language, right? You can see if something is Portuguese or Spanish immediately. In this example, you can actually see that you have a cell phone number here, which is only 7 digits. So that's without the area code. And in that one, yeah, it doesn't help us at all. But most of the phone numbers that you see in Colombia in general are with a prefix, which is why it's so useful to recognize just in general. Um, right. So I have some more examples here. So we're gonna cut to Ecuador. Um, Ecuador also has a 7 digit normal phone number system, but they have a different kind of a different area code, which is usually 09. Usually the phone numbers in Ecuador, just in general, whenever you have like mobile cell phone numbers, start with 09, 099, 098, sometimes 08, but mostly 09. And that can also really come in handy just to know immediately that you're in Ecuador. And for me, like those are countries like something like Ecuador and Colombia and Peru are countries that really look like each other. And you'd have a hard time distinguishing them, especially within cities, if you don't like know these certain type of clues. And you also have like, yeah, yellow number plates in Colombia. But sometimes, like, if you just immediately spawn anywhere and you just see a phone number like this, like here I would just immediately think, yeah, it's probably Ecuador, you know. Um, some of the area code prefixes in different countries can kind of overlap, which is annoying, but sometimes it can come in handy. In this example, for example, yeah, you just have a 7-digit phone number without the prefix, so it doesn't help us at all. But here you do have it, yeah. So it's kind of hit and miss. Here again on top, 09 phone number, and on the bottom a 7-digit phone number. And here we got some more 098, and they actually separate the area code from the normal phone number. And in this case, they don't. Um, just 099098, and it's really easily recognizable. So for Peru, um, their phone numbers are usually 6 digits long or 7 digits long, six in the Lima and Callao regions, and 7 digits long in the, well, in every other region pretty much. But the thing to look out for are the mobile numbers, because the mobile cell phone numbers are always 9 digits long, because they have a 2-digit like prefix, area prefix code that begins with 9. So usually whenever you see phone numbers that are 9 digits long and that begin with 9, which is very important, it's usually like a dead giveaway that it's Peru. Um, Again, like the normal landline phones are 7-digit long, which doesn't help us at all, because in the other countries, like for example Ecuador and Colombia and, well, other countries as well, they have these normal landline numbers that are just 7-digit long and doesn't really have anything special to them. So in that case, it wouldn't really help us out a lot. But for Peru as well, like whenever you see a 6-digit phone number, there's a pretty high chance that it's Peru. It does happen in some other cases, like in smaller cities in Argentina, for example. And so Argentina has a kind of complicated phone number system, which is recognizable in some cases, but it is probably one of the more complicated ones in the entire region. It's a bit of a mess, because they have like a lot of different prefixes that they add onto things. And here's a pretty good example of it. So in Argentina, depending on the region that you'll be in, so, or like depending on the city, like if you're in Buenos Aires or like greater, like metropolitan area of the city, you'll usually have a standard phone number, like base digit length of 8. And then for other large cities in the country, you'll have about 7. And for the smallest cities and like, yeah, smaller towns outside of the large cities, you'll have about 6 digits. Um, that's like the base phone number, but that's not all that they show, like most of the time, because adding on to that, as you can see here, on the first part of the phone number, you have a trunk code, which is 0, which is something that you add on to the phone number whenever you call like from outside of the area. And then you also have an area code, and the length of the area code also varies. So for example, for Buenos Aires that already have a long standard phone number, they'll have an area code of like 2 digits. And then for the shorter phone number regions, you'll have a longer area code, like a 4 digits, like in this case. Moreover, they also have a mobile prefix that they only use for mobile phones, where you add 15 onto the normal digit. I hope I didn't lose you yet. It's a bit of a puzzle, right? But whenever you see like this kind of system, or anyone kind of like attempting to show this system, it's a sign that it's Argentina, and it's something that you have to learn to recognize. So in this one, for example, yeah, you have like 6 digits. You have two different versions of 6 digits, and then on the left side here, you have like 02302, which would be the trunk code and the area code. And then in this case, it's without the mobile prefix. On the orange card, you have the mobile prefix. With me so far? Um, but yeah, you just have like different examples of how that works. You have a 7-digit cell phone number, normal one, and then you have another 7-digit one below it, but that has the 15 mobile prefix. What else do we have here? Yeah, you have the trunk code, area code, and a 7-digit number. All right, and on the other side, you don't have any mobile prefix, even when it says cell, but still, you just have this area code plus the 7-digit one. But like that one, for example, could look like anything out of Mexico or some other countries. Here, yeah, you have the parentheses with the trunk code, and then you also have the 15 mobile prefix. It's a pattern, right? That you can recognize sometimes, and like sometimes it can be useful to recognize these things, and sometimes it doesn't count, right? Because sometimes it can be ambiguous, or it could be another country. But like in some situations, it can be good if you're like, well, yeah, doubting which Latin American country you're in, and then sometimes you'll have something that's like a dead giveaway, like that. For example, you have the 15 dash something for a mobile phone, or you can just have like the trunk code with the area code. Like sometimes it can stand out, sometimes they can be outliers, and it can be easy to recognize, and sometimes not as much. So then, okay, going on to Bolivia. In Bolivia, they also have phone numbers of like 7 digits length, which isn't very useful, but they have their mobile cell phone numbers of 8 digit length. And what's useful with that is that they have 8 digit length mobile phone numbers that begin with 7. And then the normal landline phones are 7 digits long and usually begin with 2, 3, or 4. In this case, they begin with 2. So that's also kind of a puzzle, right? But it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit like the Peru one, because in Peru, you had 9 digit mobile phone numbers that begin with 9 as a dead giveaway. In this case, you have 8 digit like mobile phone numbers that begin with 7. Yeah. So as long as you can kind of remember that, kind of keep track of the 9 digit with 9 and the 8 digit starting with 7, it can be useful. Um, but yeah, again, Bolivia with the landline cell phone numbers like 7 digits beginning with 2, 3, or 4, it's not too helpful because it could really be something else. It could also be Peru or Ecuador because their landlines are also of 7 digits. So in this case, it would just be the mobile phone numbers that kind of help us out. Uh, what do we have here? Yeah, again, 8 digits beginning with 7, and 7 digits in this case beginning with 6, and I believe that's because it's like an official phone number. Um, Here is an example of, yeah, just like a really quick look at the phone numbers that you just find on a wall, which can be used to tell that it's Bolivia. Because again, like you just have these phone numbers, it's 8 digits starting with 7, and it's in an area where you couldn't really find anything else. And speaking of not really finding anything, we have Chile, which is really difficult because Chile doesn't really have a system, as far as I can tell. GeoTips says that Chile phone numbers are weird, which I agree with, because it really does seem random, and I've tried to figure out like why the phone numbers are this way and like why they vary so much, but it's really complicated, and that's why Chile in general, like the phone numbers in Chile don't help you at all. Like here's an example of them having 6 digits, right? And I think it's like because they've added and removed area codes in like sometimes, and they've changed, like you see here, like area code deprecation, where they have had a transitional period where they added an extra 2 in the beginning, like in the middle of the area code and the normal one, which you can see here, like after the 57 you have a 2. Okay, but then sometimes they don't, and it's something that started in Santiago and then like kind of started spreading out on the rest of the country, and it's really hard to figure out. And like sometimes for me, like you'll look at even just like a list or a collection of Chilean phone numbers, and like I actually can't find out why it is as it is, you know? Because they'll have like random length and random dashes and like pretty much just like a random pattern to it. And like here's a perfect example of that. You have like 4 different phone numbers that just have nothing to do with each other. Like there's like no way of knowing. It can be really anything. So Chile's useless. Um, their phone numbers are useless. Excuse me. Uruguay. Uruguay, they have 8 digit phone numbers, and they can be easily recognizable because they always begin with like 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, etc. Um, Pretty easy to recognize in general, just because of that like kind of area prefix always like looking the same. Now the problem can be whenever they have, well, the mobile phone numbers beginning in 09, that is the same as Ecuador, by the way. It's exactly the same system that they have. So that's a bit annoying, but luckily Uruguay and Ecuador don't look as alike as some other countries might. Um, and one of the other peculiarities about Uruguay is that it's actually a system like this 434, 424, etc. Like this area code prefix that looks very similar. A little bit like Colombia with like 300 and 320. It's something that they've added kind of recently in 2010, pretty much. Because before their phone numbers would be anywhere from like 4 to 7 digits long. They would have like really short phone numbers, and sometimes you actually see remnants of that, where they'll actually keep the length of the phone number. So here you have a 5-digit phone number. But the reason why it's only 5 digits is because this area code of 424 or 472 or something, like it's pretty much just like implicit, like they don't have to write it all of the time, which is why if you see a 5-digit phone number in an area like this or a 4-digit phone number, it might just be Uruguay pretty much because they don't always add it. So yeah, Uruguay is pretty much just with the 8 digits, beginning with the 4 something area code prefix and a 09 prefix for mobile phones. So for Mexico, they're like all of their phone numbers officially have 10 digits. The first 2 digits or the first 3 digits are an area code. And the way that they separate the digits can really like vary depending on where you are and depending on who writes them, which is confusing. But in general, they're always 10 digits long. Now um, the problem is that sometimes they don't include the area code, a little bit like in Uruguay, and a little bit like in every other country. So in this example, you see on the left side on the poster, you had two phone numbers with 10 digits, and on the right side, like on the pole for the pharmacy, you have a 7-digit phone number, and it's 7 digits because the area code is 3 digits. And in that case, it really looks like any other country. Well, some of the other countries that we've already talked about. But whenever you see phone numbers like that, where they have pretty much like 3 or 4 digits in the beginning, again, that are not 300 to 320 and not like 424 or whatever, you can be pretty sure that it's Mexico. Um, One situation where it can get a bit confusing is if you're like specifically in Mexico City, because in Mexico City the area code is 55 and 56, and then the rest of the phone number is only 8 digits long. And that can be annoying because if they ever leave it out just because they're inside of Mexico City, then the like effectively the phone number length will actually be 8 because they're omitting the area code, and that can be a bit confusing. And here you can see like in one of the phone numbers they put it in, and in the other one it's in parentheses. Um, so they could have actually just removed them. And here's the example of Mexico City, pretty much, where you have like 55 is the area code and 8 digits of a normal phone number, and then later on you'll have like any store just putting on the 8 digits, and then it's completely indistinguishable from like any other place, pretty much. But yeah, like Mexico is like the last country that has like a useful phone number system, like for the meta, in order to distinguish it. It's really like it really does vary more than other countries do, simply because of like the amount of area codes and like variations that exist, and the way that they separate the digits from each other whenever they write phone numbers. But here you have like Guatemala and the Dominican Republic that I didn't really talk about yet. They're not really worth talking about because they have the Google car with the steel bars protruding, which is like a dead giveaway that it's those countries because you have like the Google car that's easy to spot. But if you want to be able to distinguish between those two Google car meta clues, then in the Guatemala, like the Guatemala phone system is standardized for 8 digits, and the Dominican Republic, they have 10 digits where the first 3 digits is the area code, like in other countries. But the special thing about the Dominican Republic area code is that it's always like 809, 829, or 849. Like they're the only ones that they have. So that's pretty much more of a fun fact than anything like useful that you can use in Battle Royale, because it's not too hard to tell to begin with. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. Hope it wasn't too confusing. It is too confusing, but yeah, hope it's useful. Nej, vent lige. Telefonnummer. Nej, måske er der ikke alligevel. Jo.
Jo, der. Han har
Ecuador. Kør. Motherfucker. Ja!
Den tager vi med.
Og telefon.
Se der fucking hækspoiler der. Det er bare ikke business.
Okay, jeg var opdateret.
Er det en fucking Mustang?
Ja.
Fuck, den ser dårlig ud.
Jeg tror Mustang gik igennem en periode i sådan 90'erne, hvor det var super ringe.
Det er så fucking åbent.
Vi ser en skid. Indtil foran, venlig.
Kan du
Indtil
se,
foran.
hvad der står
Kør indtil foran.
Nej, men den havde ikke på forsiden.
Har den ikke det?
Mm.
Nå, okay.
Turismo, men der kan stå en eller anden.
Nej.
Det kan være, der står
Nej, det er fint.
Ja, måske.
Okay, videre.
må være andre telefoner.
Jeg kan ikke se noget telefonnummer indtil videre.
Picanteria.
Måske... Nej, der står der ikke noget.
Ej,
Jo, højere.
Jo, det er altid
Ja.
et telefonnummer.
Det der, det er Peru. Det er Peru.
Nice. Jeg synes, det er fucking genialt, det der. Det er jo fuldstændig genialt.
Det er den sydamerikanske telefonnummer meta.
Kæft,
Hvis man bare kunne telefonnummersystemet i alle sydamerikanske lande, så har man.
det er virkelig en god idé, fordi de
Ja!
skriver det over det hele i Sydamerika.